Book 101 review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. She is the author of the book ADHD Brilliance, no other than Miss Suday.
Hi. Thanks so much for having me.
Welcome to Book 101, Miss Sue. And can you please introduce more about yourself?
Sure. My name is Sue Day. I am an ADHD coach and author of new author. And I've been a coach for about 3 years now after a sort of a big, varied, up and down roller coaster of career. So, but now I feel, I'm at home in my new career as a coach. I feel very much exactly where I need to be. So I'm really happy to be sharing that with everybody.
Congratulations, Miss Sue, for sharing your knowledge to the world. And thank you so much for doing that. And what inspired you to write ADHD Brilliance?
So ADHD is a hot topic these days. We get sort of bombarded in sort of the popular media with shorts and TikToks and things about like little short bits about ADHD. Some of which is factual, some of which is not. And it's often portrayed as either a really sort of terrible weakness or terrible disability, or as something that's just sort of it's just sort of like it's just ADHD, it's whatever, and sort of flippantly portrayed. And I am challenged by both ideas. So I actually believe that ADHD is an amazing strength. That if I am treating my ADHD appropriately, that I can use my brain to do amazing things in the world. And I believe that of every ADHDer, we have really interesting, interest driven brains that we can do a lot of things with. Um, and it's also a really complex brain difference that, when untreated, can be really dangerous. There's a study came out recently that talks about takes ADHD can take up to 9 years, or an average of 9 years, off of a person's life. It's there's a lot of um, really sort of harsh realities around living in this society with a brain like ours. So I it wrote this book to sort of get out sort of the word of like, yes, it's a can be considered a pretty serious disability. However, if it's treated appropriately, uh, it can be an amazing strength. And moving into that strength, and with a strengths based mindset, is just super important to how we can thrive as ADHDers.
Beautifully articulated, Miss Sue. Very well said. How do you define brilliance in the context of living with ADHD?
Hmm. Um. I think um I lost your question a little bit. You said, how do I define
Defined brilliance.
brilliance in living with ADHD? Yes. So ADHDers have it's not like we don't have a deficit of attention. We have actually um, too much attention. We have a really hard time focusing on one thing, which is, maybe why I lost your word there, because it's hard for me to pay attention to more than one thing at once. And so, what what our brains work often very fast. They're sort of firing on all cylinders. They are often taking in everything around us. We can be very observant. We are can be really creative minds. We very rarely think inside the box. We are great problem solvers. There's just so many really great strengths that, if harnessed correctly, can take us far. I think Albert Einstein. They think Albert Einstein had ADHD. Phil Knight of Nike had ADHD. Has ADHD. Simone Biles, the gymnast, she has ADHD. And there's we can bring this strength to situations and really innovate things in a way that neurotypicals maybe have a little bit of a harder time with. So I think we just have these strengths that are really valuable to society.
Miss Sue, what's one of the biggest misconceptions about ADHD that aim to challenge?
I think it's hard to choose one. There are so many misconceptions about ADHD. Um, I think one of the things that I feel is really just really important to remember is that ADHD, in the way our society is works with people today, is a disability, right? It is absolutely, it can be devastating to our lives. It can be super hard. And so not taking your ADHD seriously and being sort of like, oh, it's just ADHD, you can deal with it. I think that's the main misconception about ADHD. It is a serious brain challenge if not considered in the appropriate ways and treated in the appropriate ways.
Do you think, Miss Sue, that ADHD is the same with the issue of mental health?
Um, I don't necessarily think that ADHD is a mental health um, uh, condition. I, although they are having a difficult time finding the biological markers for ADHD, so there's not a lot of evidence besides the fact that ADHD is 88% heritable, so more heritable than hair color. Um, that ADHD is as a medical or a brain difference. Um, I'm quite sure they're going to come up with it, but there's not a lot of evidence out there yet. However, so I don't believe ADHD is a mental health challenge, but it creates some mental health challenges and is often co-occurrent with other mental health challenges, especially anxiety and depression.
What are the some unique strengths or gifts that often come with an ADHD brain?
Hmm. We have many. One of the things I
Lots.
wrote in the introduction to my book is that people have often been called disruptive and but also funny. And it's like want to let people know like you're not disruptive. You're not that disruptive, but you probably are funny. So ADHDers tend to have a really good sense of humor. Um, we tend to I think I said earlier be really good problem solvers. um, our brains work really well in crisis situations and in sort of fast really challenging situations. So there's actually a lot of ADHDers working in like emergency rooms, a lot of EMTs. There's a lot of people who work in crisis situations that have ADHD because our brains sort of, when we have that Christ that super input, our brains sort of calm down and uh, really sort of we're able to face a crisis with calmness. Um, I don't know. We have an outsized sense of fairness and justice. We are often uh, change seekers and want to make the world a better place. Um, I think that the list sort of goes on and on, but I'll stop there.
Yes, indeed. You have a unique brain. How does the book blend science, storytelling, and practical tools?
Sorry, can you repeat your question?
How does the book blend science, storytelling, and
Oh,
practical tools?
oh, great. Thank you. So the book has two parts to it. the first part is a research backed based um, accessible summary of what I think is really important to know about ADHD. Um, all of the facts in the book um, are backed up um, in whatever you call the thing in the back that has all of the sources. Sorry, I
Yes.
also lose words. So
No worries. Take
uh,
your time.
yeah, so that's it's backed up scientifically, and there's you can access all of the studies that I used in the book. And so it is a scientific summary of what ADHD is. And then the second part of the book is a journey through in 4 steps that takes you through finding your strengths and your passions, um, determining your what you need in order to thrive. So, what kind of accommodations do you need in order to move into your favorite life? Um, and then pulling that together to create a toolbox to help you access the needs, the accommodations that you need or whatever tools you may need to thrive. And then that then gets pulled all together into sort of an operations manual for your brain, and you end up with basically a notebook. It's a workbook. You end up basically with a notebook of like, okay, so in this situation, how do I work best? And you can actually look back into this notebook and be like, oh, right, these are ways that I've been successful. Because we also have pretty crappy working memories. So we often just forget all about what works for us. So it brings it all together into that an operations manual for your brain.
Very well said, Miss Sue. Very well said. And as a writer, as an author, what will be your short-term and long-term goals?
Um, as an author, did you say what are my goals?
Yes, a
Yeah,
short-term
so
and long-term.
yeah, so as an author, I actually didn't mean to write a book. Um, I was creating a workbook for clients who have a hard time perhaps taking keeping track of keeping track of the worksheets I was giving them. And so I started creating a workbook, and then it started coming together. And as a book, I was like, oh, well, there it is. And it became a book. And um, my short term goals are really the same as my long term goals. Is I want to spread positive, fact based information about ADHD to the world. It's so completely misunderstood, and it's such a gift, but it only a gift if it's treated correctly. So that's really my. I just want to spread that message, make
And
ADHD's life easier.
yes, and I hope you will build a foundation about ADHD Foundation to help other people like you. And good luck to your goals, Miss Sue. And what will be your advice for those people out there suffering from ADHD?
Hmm. There's a lot of advice kicking around out there for ADHDers, um, and s- my advice is a little different than a lot of folks's. I don't think there's a quick fix. There's no brain hack that's going to fix your ADHD, make your life automatically easier. Um, so my advice is actually to sort of put aside the ideas of like, hey, if I just did this one thing, then this one brain hack, then my life was going to be easier. Putting that aside and actually really looking deep into yourself and finding your strengths, acknowledging your strengths and remembering your strengths in a way that boosts your confidence and helps you remember what you're great at and how you want to move through the world. Um, I think that is a lot of what we're missing because most of our life is spent um, trying to fit our brain into a place that it doesn't fit. Um, so actually taking a step back and learning like what does my brain and my being want and need in order to thrive. It's not an easy journey, but it's a really important journey, to really makes then yeah, tips and tricks out, that's great, but those aren't going to be a long-term help for you. So really doing some of that deep work is really important.
Thank you for your advice, Miss, and hoping for more and more empowering books like this for ADHD people. What feedback have you received from readers who finally felt seen through your writing?
Um, memory. So I have
Yes.
a lot of feedback from fellow coaches. I have several fellow coaches who are using this, wanting to use this book in with their clients. And so it's not out been out for very long, and I didn't do the distribution very well, so it actually hasn't gotten into very many hands yet. Um, but the coaches who've read it have noted that it's a really that it's very accessible and easy to get through. Um, that despite the deep work of the worksheets, there's a lot of personal anecdotes in it that help people understand sort of the purpose behind all of the work in the book. And I think that's one thing ADHDers often need is a lot of sort of the why of things. So it's not just that I offer worksheets and just say do these worksheets. I offer the worksheets. I often offer, an example of me doing the worksheet and what that got, how that helped me. And so I think people really like the personal anecdotes that really help people understand the why of why they're doing the work.
Do you think society is shifting its perspective on ADHD, and how does your book contribute?
Um, I think my book contributes to a really positive idea of ADHD that is not quite as prevalent, although I think it's getting a little bit more prevalent in society. But my book is talking there. Actually, one of the reasons why I wrote the book was because I ordered a bunch of workbooks to see if I could use some of the worksheets for my own clients. And they were all very negative. They were all like, you need to figure out how to fix your brain so you can go to work every day from 9 to 5 and do what people tell you to do. And I was like, that's not going to work for anybody. So, so my, or not for ADHDers anyway. So my, so the contribution to this book is really bringing it into a positive light, and what are you gonna do to help yourself thrive in what you need to thrive in, not what somebody else is telling you what to thrive in. So I think that is sort of the biggest aspect of my book.
Thank you for your contribution, Miss Sue. We salute you for doing that. How do you encourage readers to embrace their differences rather than mask them?
So rather than what?
Mask them.
Hmm. So I very much encourage. Okay, I think that masking has a purpose. I think that if we are always sort of really open and vulnerable, it's it can be sort of exhausting, similar to masking all the time. So I think there's a use for masking. That said, uh, the book is really, we really work towards figuring out who you are in your being and how you want to be. What does your, for lack of a better word, what does your soul need, um, to in order to thrive, in order to live? I don't want to say thrive. Thrive is sort of thrive, living your to thrive and live your best life, and live the life that you want. Right? Hey, what do you need in order to live the life that you want, your favorite life? Um, and this uh So, and a lot of the worksheets try very hard to sort of peel back the layers of the shoulds and who do I need to be to please other people, and much more, and peel those layers back and encourage you to figure out who you need to be to please yourself. And so the whole book is really about unmasking to the point that you want to unmask in order to live the life that you want to live.
Indeed. Miss Sue, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract poetry or abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and book 101 review for sure it's fifth season already. Comedy 101 is second season, and food 101 it's in fifth season as well. Geography 101 and love letters are in third season, and my baby podcast mental health 101 and movie 101 review and music 101 in each fourth season. So please do listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. Miss Sue, if someone reads only one chapter of ADHD Brilliance, which one would you recommend and why?
Mm. Now, it's not written in chapters because I have ADHD and I don't do things the way other most people do things. Um, but I would really encourage people to read the introduction. Not sorry, not the introduction, but part one of the book, which is the fact-based, accessible summary of what ADHD is, because uh, those of us who even if we've known about our ADHD for a long time, there's so many misconceptions about it, and I think it can really be sort of a wake up call, like, oh wow, I really should pay attention to that. I really, yeah, that's that word should. It's, I don't like it, but it will really benefit me to pay attention to this because to my ADHD, because wow, look at all the things that can happen if I don't. I could suffer more anxiety or more depression or whatever it might be. So I think that's part one is is sort of the crux of the whole thing, and hopefully part one will inspire you to move forward into the journey.
Yes, for sure. Miss Sue, they will read your book, ADHD Brilliance. Miss Sue Day, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge to the world. And we are hoping for more and more and more empowering books like this to come. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your book?
Thank you so much. It's been such a great conversation.
Yeah, so where they can buy your book, Miss?
You can buy it right now. I think the best place to do it, because we're sort of in the middle of moving it to a different kind of distribution, is to go to my website, which is pathwaysforward.com, and the tab that says ADHD Brilliance, and there's a button there to click. It will take you to whatever the best place to buy the book is at that time. So right now it takes you to a sort of a seller central account for Amazon, but then as soon as it's um, as soon as it's redistributed, it will take you to my author page instead.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Sude because if you support her, as I said, more and more empowering books to come. So, Miss Sue, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to looking at all your other podcasts. You're quite versatile.
Thank you so much. More to come, people. See you soon.